So, Ian, what do you think that is one of the important things that Todd should be telling us about today?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about sort of my interest in kiosks, but also sort of some research I've done myself, and I want to get Todd's thoughts on that. I had the opportunity during my MBA, I actually talked to a gentleman who was behind the kiosks at McDonald's. And I think one of the biggest fears from McDonald's franchisees and also employees was, well, this thing's going to replace us. And the thing that was interesting, talking to the marketing gentleman, was that actually what happened was they needed more staff because the speed of orders was faster, but also what people bought was more significant. And the reason was kind of interesting from my point of view, was that people, when they have physically people behind them, they order less at McDonald's because they perceive the person behind them that they're holding up their order. When they replaced it with a kiosk, that was eliminated. So they had a new problem, which is they couldn't make the food fast enough initially. And ironically, I was in a drive-through yesterday, and they're now even doing this in drive-throughs where it suggests a different beverage. Like they're trying to upsell it, but it's also suggesting, would you like this beverage on a different screen in drive-through? So when I look at kiosks, I think they're a great piece of technology, but I think there's got to be some fear, and I'd love to get Todd's thought on that as he installs these in dealerships.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. It's one that we hear, frankly, from every dealership, and there is a fear factor. And I've had many of GMs joke, the only time the kiosk really replace you is when you don't show up for work. You call in sick, you have a bad attitude, or you fail the drug test. And that's a reality in our business because if you look at the NADA numbers, right, I mean, our turnover is astronomical in our drive. And there are kind of two scenarios, right, where, should I say the self-service element really kind of come to play, and I'll explain this. The first is, you have a growing Subaru Audi dealership, right, that say you have 3 advisors, but you really need 4, possibly 5. And it's, expensive all in. I think, the average, full FTE for a service advisor is about $68,000, right? So instead of making that additional investment, they'll put in kiosks to help support that, but make those advisors much more efficient so that the check-in experience can be more fluid. And then, because we're having a little bit more volume, we're going to allow those advisors to be successful. And in those stores, what you typically see is Ian, you're right, they'll bring in, for example, a greeter. And those are big kind of Toyota stores that and Honda stores that have kind of the same elements. You may see what I call redistribution of headcount, where you may have had, for example, 14 advisors. You may now have 10, but you now are putting those 4 kind of junior advisors into this kind of customer advocacy or customer concierge role, where they're actually guiding the customers from, kind of initial greet through the kiosk and then kind of into the transportation setting. So you typically see that. And what we found is once advisors really understand that, this tool is here to help them, because what we always ask advisors are, what are your 2 biggest challenges every single day when you come in? Number 1 is we don't have enough time. And number 2 is, I want more opportunity. Okay, well, what chews up your most time? Well, it's the customer that comes in and, I've got a line of 5 of them and I've got, all these appointments backed up. I can't spend the time, effort, and energy to build those relationships properly because I feel hurried. And then I miss all these other steps and I lose that opportunity. So if I could get that time back, guess what? The customers that want to come stop and say hi after the check-in, great, they can. The ones that don't, fantastic. But what it allows me is to sell every single customer that NPI electronically and do it efficiently so I can make that more money. But inevitably, it does happen where I have stores, to be frankly, that may have, say, 8 advisors and, they lose that last one. That's kind of the, troublemaker per se, and they don't backfill that. They take that capital and they redeploy it, for example, in the service BDC. To ensure that we're getting there. So there's a lot of different models per se. There's not a one size fits all, but traditionally you see headcount accompanying the kiosk solution to be able to help support that exchange and educating customers.
And I had another question. Do customers, do they tend to buy more often because it's a consistent process? Does that impact sales versus, say, that morning rush at standard dealer?
It does. I mean, we typically see, right around a 20 to about a 35% uplift, depending on the brand. of customers actually selecting an upsell upon check-in. And the reason being is why, we as dealers, have kind of been challenged, is that it provides a consistent experience every single time. So, the elements that Ray and Rick will talk about, providing a fantastic training program, this is what the kiosk can deliver, consistently every single time. And so when you see those upsells, customers feel more comfortable because what we're asking for wiper blades every single time. We're presenting the hunter alignment every single time. We're asking if they want to rotate. And so customers feel more comfortable in kind of what we call sundry items, being able to select those items because they, in their conscious know that, hey, I know I'm due. I haven't changed these in a year. And they easily select those items. And so you do see a nice uplift in the kind of pre-MPI selling, which is fantastic.